Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
And today, we're putting the sole reason my buddy dolls terrified folks of all ages. That's right, 1988's Child's Play onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions for you, our unwitting victims. So put on your good guy overalls and get ready for the deep dive you didn't realize you wanted. If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a like and subscribe on YouTube, mostly because Joe gets a little dopamine kick.
I do.
I love when I receive things that I didn't realize that I wanted, and then I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, I did. I really wanted that. That's what I needed.
You can find us most places the podcast live, so do us a solid and follow us there and give us a review.
Yeah.
Also,
Hell yeah.
Spoilers ahead. You should have done your homework, boils and ghouls and demons.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, why don't we direct JD to tell us a little bit about Child's Play?
I will most certainly.
Goddamn right.
Am I doing it in the voice of Tony Danza, or should I just be?
I think you should.
I
do
would
it
rather
in the
you
voice of
didn't.
Tony Danza.
Oh, okay, yo, Angela.
Can we? No. Hey, no.
Mona.
Joe.
Sam.
That's one strike, buddy. That's going against you.
So I had a problem with this
That's
film.
two. Joe, you're at 2 strikes.
Wait, how come Joe gets a strike every time I make a mistake?
Because you can't help yourself.
If I get
that's
3
true.
strikes, do I get fired? Do I get to stop doing this?
No,
that's
All
not
right.
how it works,
I'm
Joe.
going to wrangle my shit just to keep Joe. All right, here we go.
I randomly show up at your house and defecate in a secret spot.
Which is your chest.
No, that's not a secret spot, JD. I don't want him to find it until it's too late.
No, I mean the chest where he keeps his Chucky doll is what I meant.
What?
Yeah, the chest at the foot of his bed where he keeps his...
My Puppet Master box set chest?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
we're
from
not doing any
Full
more
Moon
plugs for them. Stop it.
Entertainment?
No, that's
Oh.
enough. Stop it. No. Just tell us about Child's Play.
What about Doritos and Coke?
No, none of
We
those.
will sell out to any corporation that wants to give us money and merchandise.
Raid Shadow Legends. Get in the game.
I'd love to get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
I got offered it, and I'm a fucking nobody.
That's pretty cool. To me, though, you're somebody.
Raid Shadow Legends sent me a request to fucking pimp their game on my stream.
It's pretty tight.
Although I think they only pay you based on the number of people that click your affiliate link.
Yep.
So,
So yeah, Child's
went a
Play,
direction.
right? That's what we're talking about?
yeah.
All right, let's take a new direction.
You mean the direction we were supposed to be on from the get-go? Yeah.
Right. Well, you know what we are, we're not...
Yeah, Ken, you should be used to this bullshit by now.
We
It
eat
doesn't
the kind
mean I
of
can't try to wrangle it in,
sugary breakfasts that Andy has, and it just destroys our potential for attention span.
Yeah.
So yeah, Child's Play was released November 9th of 1988. There was a bit of controversy surrounding the release of Child's Play. There was this mass group of protesters, and they had band together, staking out the main entrance of the MGM building, claiming that they were terrified that it would incite violence among children, which is doubtful, but okay.
It did. I went on a murder spree after I watched it.
That's pretty cool, actually.
And then the murders began.
Right. It was just roll it. So yeah, Child's Play had a runtime of 87 minutes with a budget of $9 million, grossing out everyone. I mean, at the box office, it grossed $44.2 million, and that was actually the second highest grossing film, second highest only to Rain Man of 1988. Yeah. The film received 3 Saturn Award nom-noms: Best Horror Film, Best Writing, and Best Performance by a Young Actor. Well, Catherine Hicks won the Saturn Award for Best Actress for the film.
Which that was Karen Barclay.
That was the character she played.
Yeah. Andy's mom.
Has got it going on.
And Alex Vincent was Andy Barclay, and he actually returned to the series, but we could talk about that later.
Absolutely.
If you want.
Yeah, there's no laws against it, so we probably should. Child's Play was co-written and directed by Tom Holland, born July 11th of 1943.
The Spider-Man kid?
No, Joe, 1988. This is when this movie came out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Native of New York. This American actor, director, model, and screenwriter is best known for his contribution to horror. I'm going to mostly discuss him as a director. His directorial debut began with Fright Night in 1985, which he also wrote. which is I have to see it again in the near future to know for sure how it holds up, but I remember loving Fright Night. Anyway, that's one of the things that I've learned through doing this podcast is that a lot of the films that I loved as a kid, I feel a little differently about as an adult. I'll just leave it at that. Still love horror, though. Then he also directed Thinner in 1996.
Nice.
And also worked a bunch on the show Tales from the Crypt between 1989 and 1992. Child's Play was produced by David Kirshner. Kirshner was born May 29th of 1955. This American film/television producer and screenwriter is best known for producing all 7 of the Child's Play franchise.
Damn.
Yeah. And also, this is a film that I'm just not quite certain of. Hocus Pocus. I get tired of people categorizing that in the horror genre. It's frustrating to me.
It is.
I mean, it's a children's movie, but it's certainly a horror movie.
It absolutely
is. It though?
Yeah.
Is it? It's a horror
Absolutely.
movie?
It totally
Okay.
is.
I don't know. Then he produced a film titled Christie, 2014, and was an executive producer to the Addams Family animated TV series. Did 21 episodes to be exact between 1992 and 1993. So, is anyone interested in the plot of Child's Play?
That's
not
what I'm
interested
waiting
in
for.
any of this.
That's what you've been waiting for. Wait.
Yep.
Pump the brakes, Kane. Joe,
What?
say that again.
I'm not interested in any of this. I just want to go back to bed.
Wait, what time do you go to bed?
Whenever I get too drunk to stand up,
Oh,
typically.
and you're there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, just hang in there with us, okay? We got 30 minutes more, and then you can crawl back into your coffin.
Okay. All right.
It's not a coffin.
What is it?
It's just a bed of old Dorito bags and vomit.
And some newspapers. I've got some old moist newspaper in there.
When was the last time you purchased a newspaper, Joe?
I mean, I don't buy them. They just throw them at the end of the driveway, and I collect them from the neighborhood to build my nest.
So, because of your drinking,
Tumas?
do you use the newspaper to take up the slack in your waistband when you just drink too much and don't eat for days on end? And then stand up all drunk? So your
What?
pants don't fall down?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm trying
What's
to figure
going
it out.
on?
Yeah. Just tell us about Child's Play.
The plot of Child's Play.
And Joe, shut up, unless you're
Aw.
going to talk about Child's Play.
Oh my
Okay.
God, you're abusive.
Yeah, you're-
Emotionally
Bad friend.
and verbally abusive.
Look, you know what? When I tried to broach Joe on the subject of his drinking, he got really combative, and I'm not going to do it anymore. If he wants to drink, let him drink.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, see, you think it's a cry for help or whatever. I just think it's funny.
It's a cry for more whiskey.
It's exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So yeah, the plot of Child's Play. 'Twas the year 1988, and serial killer Charles Lee Ray is on the loose.
Played by Brad Dourif, who also voiced Chucky throughout the film.
Yeah.
The Dorfmeister. So he's like wreaking havoc through the mean streets of the south side of Chicago.
Mhm.
And real quick, I've got a bone to pick with this film. So everybody
your
in this
bone.
movie, I'll bet you would. Everyone in this movie is using like a fucking Brooklyn accent to depict a Chicagoan, and it's just annoying.
Sure.
Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, whatever, whatever." You know, that's
Who were they trying to depict, JD?
people of Chicago.
What?
Chicago.
I just wanted to clarify for anyone what a Chicago accent sounds like, and so I made you say Chicago multiple times for that reason.
Oh, okay. That was clever. Anyway, he's up to some shit. And the fearless detective Mike Norris is on the case.
Played by Chris Sarandon.
Yes.
Should have been played by Tony Danza. Continue.
Should have been played by Susan Sarandon.
Nice. Also good.
Mike shoots the fuck out of Charles and his accomplice.
Does he shoot his accomplice?
I thought his accomplice, well, maybe he was shot at. I think that's what it was. He was shot at.
I think the heat got too hot, and he was like, oh, fuck this, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, he bailed on Charles. And so Charles conveniently sneaks off into a toy store.
There's no sneaking.
Well, he gets in there. He's
He doesn't sneak, though. He shoots the lock, and the alarm goes off, JD.
well, he's
It's
trying to
super
just
loud.
get in where he fits in. So why don't you just
backseat.
Put a sock
summarize.
in it and let me read the fucking plot that I wrote. So
All right.
anyway,
To throw you off your game a bit?
just give me a second.
This is what happens when we record during the day and we're all full of energy.
Yeah, so anyway, Mike's shooting the piss out of Charles. Charles
Rootin' and
breaks
tootin'.
into the toy store, and no sooner, though, does staggering Charles find himself a My Buddy doll to...
It's a good guy doll.
Oh, that's right.
My buddy.
I don't know why I called that My Buddy.
It's basically what it was.
Yeah, it's basically what it was. It was like a mixture of Teddy Ruxpin and
Say that again?
Teddy Ruxpin.
Was it Teddy Ruxpin?
It's Ruxpin.
Ruxpin.
Is it Ruxpin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah, he had the little cassette in his chest.
I was never a kid that could afford a Teddy Ruxpin, so.
Well, generally, kids don't have to afford it. It's the parents that have to ante
Yeah,
up.
kids
and...
don't really have income most of the time.
You guys
Most of
didn't
the
work when you were
time.
8 years old?
I mean, I had a paper route. I can't remember the age.
I know you were thrust into the coal mines of Virginia at a very young age, but I don't know if that's a common experience.
Speaking of that, I'm going to interrupt real quick. So I've been
Interrupt
listening
what?
to this podcast called The Old Gods of Appalachia.
Great podcast.
Fucking so good. So good. But I've noticed something while listening on the Spotify that I pay money to not listen to commercials.
Mhm.
Full of commercials.
Yeah, I get it. Like, do what you gotta do to hustle and get your... But it is very annoying.
Did they use the word Saigoglin?
What?
Did they use the word Saigoglin? That's like an old Appalachian expression to say something's all wonky. They have their own dialogue, though, like their own,
Dialect?
dialect. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
It's a fucking real thing.
Is it?
Saigoglin is an archaic U.S. Appalachia dialect.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Shit.
Not built correctly, crooked, skewed, out of balance.
I've talked to someone from that region of the country once, and
Right.
they explained to me what it meant because they were describing something to me as Saigoglin, and I stopped them and asked them, I'm like, what does that mean? Go ahead and define that for me. And
Learn
that's
something new
pretty
every
much
day.
what they said, yeah, so... Anyway, back to Charles in the toy store. He finds himself a Chucky doll and begins to chant away on a Haitian voodoo incantation that allows him to transfer his evil-natured spirit into
Evil.
the doll. Evil!
Yeah, right into the doll.
Straight into the fucking Chucky doll, leaving his physical body to die off, finally, after, he's riddled with...
Right.
And, the store magically gets struck by lightning and explodes. Mike escapes in the nick of time.
I do like that this is the second of the puppet season that's ended up in a toy store at some point.
It's true.
Yeah?
But yeah, so the lightning strikes, big explosion, Detective Mike Norris escapes.
Yeah.
Detective Chuck Norris does not.
Yeah, that was your big swing, Joe.
Doing my best, okay?
So there's a shot, though, of them finding the tattered, bullet-infested corpse of Charles alongside the doll. There's just a quick shot of that. And here comes the kicker. The very next day, Karen Barclay unknowingly purchases the doll from a homeless street vendor as a last-second birthday gift for her 6-year-old son, Andy.
Played by Alex Vincent, who does return to the series in Curse of Chucky. He reappears in the series at the ending credits.
Very nice, very nice. So yeah, Andy absolutely loses his shit over this doll. So later that night, Karen's friend Maggie, who played Maggie Kane.
I'm not saying, because we're skipping some stuff.
Okay.
Some important stuff that we should have talked about.
Do you need me to step away so the two of you can work something out?
No. There was some important shit that happened. I know it's...
Well, I'm going to get there.
Well, rather than be weird and passive-aggressive about it, Kane, why don't you just...
I'm trying to be just aggressive about it, Joe. All right? I'm trying to talk about the fact that Andy makes his mom breakfast.
Yeah, but we already talked about that earlier, like when we talked
But
about
not in
our
detail.
dietary habits.
You just kind of glanced over it.
But it's such a stupid, mundane detail.
Yeah, it's not
that
really the plot of the movie that
it
the
has
kid makes a dumb
nothing to
breakfast.
do with the fucking movie.
It's establishing the relationship between a 6-year-old boy and his overworked single mom. I feel like it's important to the plot.
Okay. So he makes her a shitty breakfast, a bowl of already sugary cereal that he throws a heaving 3 tablespoons of sugar on top of. He doesn't understand the concept of full, everything is overflowing. the tray, the counter, everything's got cereal and sugar and orange juice and milk, and it's just
And fucking margarine.
Yeah, which the mom now has to clean up after being woken up at 6:30 in the morning.
He essentially adds the entire container of margarine onto a single slice of burnt toast.
Burnt-ass toast.
Yeah, and the toaster, depicted
Didn't have a
in
timer.
that film, no timer.
I was going to ask that because you folks are a little older than I am. Was the timer knob on toasters like a later invention?
No. Toasters always just set
That's
the toast
what I
free.
thought.
Yeah, when it was ready, it has a cooking time. It's,
Yeah, usually the toasters that we had when I was a kid had a piece of bread that looked brightly colored, and then in the middle a piece of bread that looked somewhat brown, and then a piece of bread that looked darker. Not burnt, but just darker.
Yeah?
But yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about that toaster and
You just wanted to talk about toast for a minute.
and the stupid 6-year-old being a dummy.
Right.
But it does establish the relationship that they have.
He's just a 6-year-old, really.
Yeah.
Kids
are dumb.
love sugar, and so they assume that adults might love sugar the same, but not the case.
Yeah, maybe like the burning the toast was active incompetence because there's a knob, you adjust it, it sets a timer, it times the toast. But outside of that, like all the butter and sugar and overflowing the cereal bowl, I can kind of empathize with as the kid making his ideal breakfast. This is what I would like my breakfast to be.
And so that's what I'm making for my mom.
Yeah.
But mom also likes bread with butter on it too, so I need to add that into the mix. Okay, that makes sense.
And he also might be buttering her up a bit, being that it's his birthday and there's a present that he really wants.
And we'll just say dick move on the mom for getting a box exactly the shape of a good guy doll.
Right. It led him to believe that it could be that in the initial package,
Maybe it was just an attempt for her to teach him a valuable life lesson.
About disappointment.
Yeah, about everything is awful and it only gets worse as you get older.
Everyone you care about will eventually disappoint you in one way or another.
Exactly.
And listeners, this film was not even... We're talking about this film in the most stupid fucking way we could possibly have talked about it.
Yeah.
It's not a Tarantino film, so let's just try to go and put this back into order.
Okay. Wow, look, JD is reining us in.
So let's go ahead and try to heal this moronism that we've just spun you off in. And so now the kid has the doll already, and his mom needs to work a late shift. So her friend Maggie does a bit of babysitting as Karen works her, like I said, her overnight thing. Then things start to really get weird.
Has an adventure in babysitting.
As the evil spirit of Charles, now turned Chucky, is alive and thriving inside his new doll host, and catches his own news report in front of the television. Maggie attempts to return the doll to Andy's room. Yeah, there we go. That was easy, wasn't it?
I knew you could do it.
Yeah, so the doll, anyway, she tries to return it to Andy's bedroom, but not before Chucky decides to blast a fucking hammer through her face, which sends her careening out a window as she hurls into ultra-death status.
Ultra-death?
Yeah, the hammer plus a distant fall, that equals absolute death, just in case anyone was unclear on how that worked.
Sure.
Karen's son, Andy, is now a suspect, the prime suspect for Detective Norris. The next day, Chucky and Andy play hooky and jump on the L downtown. And I'm not sure what neighborhood they were in. Being a Chicagoan, everything was very weird and ambiguously shot. It wasn't clear where the hell they were in the city, and I think they just misrepresented everything, including our accent. Andy, being all dopey and distracted while he stood there and took a piss, he didn't realize the mischief that Chucky was going to embark upon. And so he goes and sneaks into the building where his accomplice Eddie was hanging out, kind of like a squatter almost. It was a real rundown joint. Mm-hmm. And he seeks revenge through a forced gas explosion. We go ahead and add that to the list of crimes to which Andy is considered a suspect for. Andy, I guess he gets admitted to this place, after there's just a ton of denial. No one believes his story that Chucky is committing these heinous crimes. So they obviously, they suspect poor little Andy, and Karen discovers, though, at some point, that Chucky has been on tilt, despite having no batteries.
That was a pivotal moment in the movie.
It was.
It really was. It was.
Especially when I was a kid. That was in trailer. Like, that was like a terrifying part of the movie.
Yeah, kind of makes your stomach drop to think of the batteries are included, but they don't put them in the doll. They give them to you to do yourself. And so she shakes this box around, and then she has a moment with Chucky, and she's kind of having a talk with him. And that's when he just gives her a nice bite. And Karen I think she wanted to believe Andy. But anyway, Chucky springs to life and begins whooping Karen's fucking ass in.
Yeah.
Fortunately, though, Karen escapes. So she confides in Detective Mike. And naturally, he finds her to be out of her fucking tree. And so then Karen finds the homeless street vendor. Well, she tells Mike that's what she's about to do. And he's like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go down there. It's a rough part of town. And then they sort of portray homeless people in an incredibly horrid light.
They do.
The street vendor guy, he ended up being a total shitbag cretin because he was about to do some horrible stuff to Karen. And then Mike,
who was tailing her.
Yeah, he follows her through this bad idea of hers and ends up punching the creepiness right out of the fucking homeless street vendor
Maybe
guy.
not out of him.
Yeah, he's probably still creepy when he wakes up later.
Yeah, but at least, somebody tried to tune him. But anyway, so Karen and Mike go on and on over, Chucky, and he still doesn't believe her.
That the peddler was actually played by a man named Juan Ramirez.
Okay. So yeah, they're going on and on about, Chucky and how bullshit it is, and Mike doesn't believe her, and then Chucky is now whooping Mike's ass.
Yeah.
I like when actors fight prop monsters in movies that are like doll-sized or puppet-sized, and you can tell that the actor is doing, at least, depending on the special effects budget of the movie, at least half the work in making the doll fight them.
Right. It's like 90% of the work, and the doll is...
it's biting my neck, and they're like holding the doll's head to their own neck.
Yeah, as they flail about.
Yeah, I like when that happens. I think it's very funny.
Yeah, I think that one of the best examples of a scene from that would be Plan 9 from Outer Space by Ed Wood, when Bela Lugosi fights with a giant octopus thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Mike busts a few caps in that doll's ass, but Chucky escapes, and he starts to realize, oh shit, man, like my wounds are bad and they're real, and so he's kind of freaking out. So what does he do?
This is at the same time that Karen and Detective Mike discover, because the split that happens is Karen goes to Charles Lee Ray's residence and finds a bunch of dick art on the walls.
Right.
And while she's doing that, Mike Norris has gone to the precinct to dig up all the files on Charles Lee Ray and finds out about John Dr. Death Bishop, played by Raymond Olive.
Right. So yeah, Chucky goes to his voodoo instructor, John, for a little advice. And John's really not having it. He finds Chucky to be an abomination. And now we've got a thing or two to discuss, because who the fuck has a voodoo instructor? That's what I want to know. I visit New Orleans too much to speak ill of voodoo, but still a voodoo instructor.
I mean, if you want to learn voodoo, somebody's got to teach it to you.
Yeah. What voodoo instructor, though, keeps a voodoo doll of themselves laying around to be tampered with?
Or you could do one of those correspondence courses through the mail.
That feels safer, because I feel like voodoo is very physical and like you're subject to such,
Yeah. Maybe take the voodoo course at DeVry University.
Right. Or like, isn't it Phoenix? What's that one?
I know.
Phoenix University or something like that, where everything's online.
Very reputable.
Yeah. Anyway, John lets Chucky know that the longer he's inside the doll, the more shit's gonna get real for him.
Yeah.
And so Chucky demands assistance, but John basically, he's kind of a hero in a sense. He's like, fuck you, bro. Like, I'm not gonna help you with any of this shit. Just die or whatever. Yeah, get fucked. Right. Like, I'm not into this. You fucked me. I taught you all this shit, which he probably should have done a little screening.
Yeah, because clearly this person had violent tendencies.
With great power comes great responsibility, and like it's like he never read a comic book before to learn any of that.
An inclination towards crime.
Right.
That's not the guy you want to teach voodoo to.
Right, yeah, particularly
Yeah.
violent crime.
Yeah.
Sure. And apparently Chucky was a real good student because he grabs John's voodoo doll and begins working that sucker over. And I mean, he's like breaking appendages and until John finally reveals that if he wants to live, he needs to transfer his shitty little soul to the first person he was revealed to, which is essentially, that would be Andy. So Chucky brutally murders poor broken John.
With the voodoo doll.
Right, the heart of the voodoo doll, which is in essence his own heart.
I want to dissect this just for a second.
Oh my God.
What? What's wrong with this? Shut up, Joe. Just shut up. If you are a voodoo priest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know the shit's real, right? We're living in a world where this shit is real.
Right.
And you know how to operate. You know what it does. Why the fuck do you make a personal voodoo doll of yourself and stow it away somewhere where people can find it?
It's true. I think even the movie calls that out.
Well, Chucky is like, if you're going to make one of these, you shouldn't let your customers know.
Yeah.
But why even?
But why do it?
Yeah, why do it at all?
Maybe you can also like give yourself a massage through the voodoo doll, or like maybe there are positive things that you can do through that energy transference.
You could derive some pleasure through the doll,
yeah, maybe.
perhaps.
I don't rub the little doll genitals in it. Yeah, maybe there's something going on there.
Whoa. Why did
Put
we
the
immediately go
doll
to that direction?
I mean,
on a
JD
pizza.
started it. I just yes-handed it.
If you just put my voodoo doll on a pizza, I would be very satisfied.
Just absorb the pizza essence.
Yeah, I would be okay
But
with
yeah,
that.
maybe there are some benefits that you can derive through the.
All right, you know
That's
what? I
why he had
regret.
one of them.
I
So,
regret bringing this up. Let's just move on.
Well, and
All right,
because I
so-
already made that statement, that's fine. But yeah, people, that's free advice. Trust it, take it, learn something new. Chucky runs away. You know, Karen and Mike show up to John's well, he's not a corpse yet, but he's close.
He's almost there.
He's on his dying breath, and he informs the couple that Chucky has a weakness, a human living beating heart, and that is his point of vulnerability. So the team basically they rush off, you know, back to Karen's. Meanwhile, Chucky he's in hot pursuit of Andy. I forget exactly how Andy wound up back home.
Well, I
but
mean, it was he was at the hospital.
Yes.
And Andy happened to catch a view of Chucky and the building over.
Right. And Chucky ended up murdering Mike's main doctor, his
Well, Chucky stole the keys and used the keys to open up Andy's psych cell,
Right.
I guess is what you'd call it.
So that he could take over his
But
body.
Andy played a trick on him and had stuffed the bed, making it look like he was sleeping.
It was his body. Yeah, that was a cunning ruse, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And then he slipped out from under the bed, grabbed the keys, and didn't just lock Chucky in the room.
Yeah, that would have made the whole movie stop, really.
It
Yeah.
could have.
But he just runs, and then his doctor gets killed. But yeah, and then he makes his way home. That's essentially what happened.
In a very brutal, electrifying manner was that doctor killed. Who played the doctor again?
That was actually a pretty cool death.
It was.
The doctor was played by Jack Colvin.
Jack Colvin. Yeah, he got his head fried. Basically, it was.
Yeah. That kid's going to be so traumatized.
Oh yeah,
They did the
yeah.
really cool scene changes where it like focused on the doctor's face and then switched to Andy looking traumatized and then focused at a worse off doctor's face
Mm-hmm.
and then focused on Andy and I think maybe did a shot at Chucky laughing.
Yeah, with the knobs and levers.
Yeah. And then he slowly progresses to being cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now cut to basically Chucky finally he's at home with Andy and he gets a hold of him and he gives him a bop on the head and Andy drops out and Chucky begins his soul transferring incantation and Mike and Karen show up and so it has to kind of get cut short, but Chucky shanks Mike in the leg and Karen tosses him into a fireplace and Andy is a little frozen, but he eventually kind of comes around to helping out Mom. And they fling a lit match to finish the deed. That doesn't work, though.
No, it doesn't. Of course
No.
not. It can't work.
Chucky just looks cooler.
He looks well done.
He
He looks
does.
very well done.
It's scarier. He looks a hell of a lot scarier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he looks broiled and possibly very pink on the inside, but
Maybe a little goopy.
that's really about an hour and 16 minutes in the film before we see some goopy puppet action. That is
Right.
basically what we're here for this season.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to state that the doll itself
Yeah.
Whenever it's moving around, they actually used forced perspective.
Yeah.
And those were done with John Franklin, Ed Gale, and Ashley Vincent, who is Alex Vincent's sister.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. And there was a bit of puppet vision used as a special effect, a little Chucky vision.
Love
We're
it.
going to get to that with the special effects. Let's see here. So, taking a turn, shooting the piss out of Chucky. It's not really working. He keeps being able to escape. They think Chucky's kind of, finished up, but Mike's partner, Jack, shows up. Jack is played by who?
Tommy Sverdlow.
Okay. So he gets wind of this outrageous story, and he doesn't believe a word of it.
His mustache does, though.
His mustache was convinced the whole time.
Yeah, completely on board. His mustache shook hands with Mike. That was quite a mustache, I have to say.
Even for the late 80s, that was
Yeah, it was a powerful mustache.
that was a statement.
Yeah, it's a dick duster.
But I mean, didn't all Chicago cops in the 80s and 90s have a big thick mustache? Was that their attempt to make it more regional?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
I feel like just all movie cops in the late 80s and 90s had big mustaches.
It was kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jack is not buying the story, and then finds Chucky's head, plops it on top of a old TV, and kind of shit talks the group. But not before Chucky pops out of a vent and begins to strangle him.
At which point the head starts screaming at its own body.
Yeah, cheering it on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kill
he's like
him! Get him!
very encouraging
Yeah.
to his
Good
remaining
teamwork.
But that
bits.
suggests that the voodoo made, like when his head was separated from his body, those pieces were separate entities at that point.
Yeah, because,
I feel like this film reveals a good many
Hindbrain.
lessons. What do we do moving forward from now on when someone tells you that a doll had sprung to life to do fucked up shit? And I'm going to go ahead and just say maybe you should take a little bit of what they're saying into consideration. You don't have to believe them, but just be aware that you could be strangled by a crispy doll at some point.
JD, do you think that this was a cautionary tale?
I think JD thinks this was a documentary.
Okay.
This is a documentary. Yeah, it took place in Chicago. These things happen here. But so just believe people if they tell you that there is a demonic toy that is awake.
Joe, make sure you mark this and the timestamp here so that we could do an editor's note.
JD's views regarding animate dolls and toys do not represent the podcast.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. So just on the offshoot that something happens, y'all can be ready now. You just be on ready.
Although I do have to wonder, because this is a world where voodoo works.
Right.
You would think that this wouldn't be the first instance of some weird magic shit.
Right, and here's the other thing. Murder dolls, they lean on the element of surprise.
Right. Because you underestimate them because they're toys.
Yeah, and that is their success. So just please learn this. That's all I'm saying. Like, if you give a murder doll the advantage of the element of surprise, it's going to take advantage of that, and it's going to get you.
You know, the world that you live in, JD, is a beautiful fucking place.
Yeah,
Thank
JD,
you.
basically what you're saying is just go through life assuming that no matter how far-fetched, there's always a chance that any object could attempt to end your life.
Well, I don't know about that, but...
If somebody says, like, hey, Mountain Dew Code Red tried to eat my ass.
Whoa.
Why would it... What? Wait, what? Do you...
I meant, like bite.
I would just assume that they tried to stuff a bottle of Mountain Dew Code Red up their ass. I wouldn't...
Sure. Okay,
And
that was
which
a bad,
I've read
was
that that's a
bad
really
example.
bad idea, because I guess it could suck out your intestines in some weird
Yeah,
way.
create
they're-
like a vacuum.
Yeah, so it might have created the appearance of it eating their ass, but really, it's just a bad idea.
JD, if someone was to say, hey, don't sleep on that mattress, that bed eats people.
It's a deathbed, a bed that eats people.
You know, depending on the evidence, are there bite marks on anyone's flesh? I mean, I'm not just saying that I'm adhering to someone's word without evidence. I'd need some evidence.
So you're agnostic when it comes to killer objects existing in everyday life. You don't believe in it, but you think there's always a chance that it could happen, and you should give people the benefit of the doubt.
I would like to give most people the benefit of the doubt because there's a chance that this existence is just almost holographic. You know, we
You
could
mean
be
like a computer simulation?
It could be, and we could all just be like living in a drop of
Editor's
dew right
note,
now on
JD's
a blade of
views
grass.
do not necessarily
Reflect the views and opinions of the Butcher Block Horror Podcast. Right.
Just a third of it. Just a third of it.
I mean, I'm into, multi-dimensions and the possibility of, what's on the other side of the wormhole.
This took a turn.
What is this turning into?
Cosmic horror.
We're talking
I'm
about the movie
cosmic
Child's
with it.
Play.
Getting
all
cosmic
right?
with it. No.
Whoa.
Real weird deep cut.
So yeah, anyway, Mike shoots the fucking piss out of Chucky again, and finally it's enough. It's finally fucking enough. His little human heart splatters against the wall behind him, and Detective Jack is just like, no one's gonna believe me if I tell him.
Well, yeah, I would like to actually put emphasis on that. So one of the things that this movie does quite well is acknowledge the fact that no one believes in a living doll.
Right.
Detective Mike Norris didn't believe it until he was almost killed. Jack Santos didn't believe it until he was almost killed.
Why does it got to get to that point? Was my point earlier,
We're not going back there, JD. No, we're not. We're not crossing back that way. All right, we already hit that part. We're moving on.
We're over it. Okay,
but
I got you.
In
I'm
the
with you.
movie, the fictional characters of Jack Santos and Mike Norris have an exchange towards the very end of the movie where Mike's like, "Hey, do you believe me now?" And Jack, kind of exasperated, is like, "Yeah, but who's gonna believe me?"
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. That was particularly exciting for me to have that happen.
Right. It's definitely a contrast from, for example, full moon films. I don't know why I couldn't say that for a second. Who often uses tiny monsters like dolls and toys in their films because they're cheap to make.
Sure.
And people pretty quickly go, oh shit, those dolls are going to kill us. We need to deal with that underlying reality.
Right.
Whereas in at least this movie, I don't know about the other Child's Play franchise films.
It gets weird. Well, this episode can't be that long. It can't. It'll take us another 2 hours to cover that.
Sure. It was almost gaslighting behavior. I don't know what you're talking about Killer Doll. That can't be a thing. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. So Chucky's dead. The cops that are there realize no one will believe them, which if we cover the second movie, it actually goes into that.
Oh, cool. We should watch it.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, that was a pretty fun explanation of the movie Child's Play.
JD's weird beliefs. Oh yeah, the movie Child's Play.
I mean, I don't know how fun that is. That is
my weird beliefs as pertain to film. That's, I feel like the characters need to just not stop being so naive.
So are we backtracking now? Because I'm pretty confident. It felt like to me. Now, Joe, I don't know what it felt like to you, but it felt like to me that you were saying if, like, say, for example, right? I come up to you, JD. I've got like a wound on my arm, and I go, JD, don't go into such and such place. There is a Teddy Ruxpin doll. Did I say it right?
No. Continue.
How do you say it again?
Ruxpin.
Teddy Ruxpin doll.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And someone put a behemoth tape in this thing and it animated, and it just cut me with a broken pane of glass, like a broken piece of glass. Don't go into that room. Your response to me is going to be like, all right, cool, let's not go in that room.
Yeah. I wouldn't go in the room.
You're not going to be like, hey,
not Kane, we need
Kane.
to get you somewhere where you can
Exactly.
talk to someone.
No, I would just take you to the emergency room for your stitches, that's all. And we would not go into the room where you claim that the Ruxpin
all right,
doll...
that's all I needed. That establishes, that answers all of my questions. JD, you're a good friend and I love you.
Yes, likewise.
God bless us, everyone.
Aw.
All right, well, let's talk about the special effects then. This movie had a lot of shit going on in it.
Yeah, a lot of pyro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of animatronic.
Yeah.
A lot of everything.
So yeah, Kevin Yeager was in charge of the puppetry. And for this, they used a great deal of radio-controlled animatronics.
Oh, that's cool.
Operated by 9 different puppeteers. In addition to some child actors and actors of short stature. To me, this was great because as Chucky becomes more and more human, his hairline begins to recede.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first horror films I could think of where a horror character's hairline recedes throughout the course of the film.
So I do want to say that what a fitting name that the animatronics doll face was being controlled by a dude named Brock Winkless.
What?
And he refused to wink at anyone.
His name is Brock Winkless.
Okay.
And he was the puppeteer whose facial features were being monitored with a device that made Chucky's face come alive.
Oh, I see. Because he was okay, I see what you're saying.
Sure.
And so his name is Brock
Right.
Winkless.
No, I get it. You can stop explaining it now.
It's Brock Winkless. Winkless.
He was puppeteering a doll who had an unblinking gaze.
Very nice. Are you guys proud of yourselves?
Never.
No, I'm not, actually. But yeah, so keep going, JD, and I'm just going to stop talking about cool things because,
So yeah,
Joe's here.
getting real, and he begins balding. This is a time, before Propecia and Four Hens and Minoxidil and all of that.
He could have gotten a little toupee, though.
He could have, but I think he was just more concerned with evil.
Well, I don't think it was a receding hairline like Chucky's going bald.
Right.
I think it was more of a receding hairline like this isn't a doll anymore. This is
Right.
a person.
He was
This is
looking
a
more and more human.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, that's it's about as deep as I went into the special effects. It was a team project, there are a lot of names to drop. And, yeah, that's about that.
Cool.
Right on. So before we go into the personal experience with the film, this movie had a lot of changes done after being viewed by test audiences.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you guys saw any of that stuff.
I didn't look into that side of it now.
Basically, what ended up happening is they showed the film to multiple test audiences, which is not uncommon.
Yeah.
What is kind of uncommon is that they cut so much. There's like 25 minutes of the film to reduce the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then they also cut specific plot points that showed Dr. Death or John Bishop. That showed him like healing a baby through a voodoo ritual.
That would have been useful to have.
Right?
Because it would have set up a contrast between Chucky using the voodoo for evil. Like, it would have explained a lot, I feel
Right.
like.
And the intention of using it for healing and good.
And then there was another scene that would have been like the opening, and it would have been Charles Lee Ray stalking a drunk woman as a human, only to discover it to be Mike Norris as an undercover sting operation.
Interesting.
That was going to be there. Andy showing Chucky around his room to find a picture of his deceased father. Like, there was some stuff that may have actually been pretty cool to have in the film that they just cut out. There was like a mentally ill girl named Mona that was used to carry Chucky into the psychiatric ward. That got cut, and it's just him climbing around outside on windows and shit like that.
Sure.
And then there was an alternate ending where Chucky is stabbed by Andy from a Home Alone style knife mounted onto a radio controlled car.
Oh, nice.
And then his legs were melted off with a squirt gun filled with Drano.
Damn.
So there was a lot more that was supposed to happen to Chucky. And then there was supposed to be, while storing the remains of Chucky in the evidence room, another cop would be disbelieved that the doll was alive, and then there would be a fly next to the doll, and then Chucky's disembodied arm would come to life and would swat the fly. So those were things that were in the script, but then the things that were specifically cut from the film where test audiences just didn't like it, and I don't understand. I want to be in those test audiences back then because I want to see, knowing what I know now and having seen the film as it is today, I want to see why those scenes didn't resonate.
Right. And I quickly Googled it. It doesn't seem like a lot of that footage exists anymore.
No, it's all gone. It's
Yeah.
all gone. But yeah, so now we've gone through the special effects. Let's talk about the personal experience with the film. Joe,
Sure.
Start us off.
Yeah, I saw this movie in probably the mid 90s, early 90s. Didn't remember most of the, story stuff. I just remembered the scary puppet stuff. Probably saw it on like TV around Halloween, I would have to guess. This movie was much more competent than some of the other wet puppet films we've watched during this season. It had real cinematography. The cinematographer, Bill Butler, worked on like Rocky movies and some other things, like legitimate. And you could see that in the camera work. The shots, I always like monster vision in shots. We usually bring it up on this.
Me too. It's one of my favorite things.
The Steadicam Chucky vision shots were really good.
Which I think almost all horror movies that have those shots need to thank Sam Raimi for inventing it. Yeah, I think the music was good too. Not to cut in on your
No,
personal
please do.
experience. The music was pretty awesome too. The score was great. It was by Joe Renzetti.
Mhm.
I did want to note that he also did the score for Basket Case 2 and Basket Case 3.
Nice.
Which are both really fun movies.
Right.
I haven't seen the Basket Case sequels. We should watch them on the show.
Absolutely.
We will.
But yeah, this movie was, pretty successful. I wouldn't call it a cult classic just because it actually it was made by a real studio and actually got promoted
And made money.
and made money.
44.2 mil to be exact.
Right.
Yep.
So there's a decent chance that if you're in the audience of this podcast, then you've probably seen Child's Play. But I certainly would recommend it if you haven't. It's a fun horror movie. It succeeds at everything that it sets out to do.
Oh, one more thing about the music.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was later followed up by a vinyl pressing by Waxworks Records, which is from Chicago as well.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. I love Waxworks.
But yeah, that's all I really have to say about
All right.
any of that.
Awesome. JD, give us your personal experience with the film.
Yeah, so I was actually probably too young to see this in the theater, but I did see this film in the theater. It was incredibly fun, and I have to say that one of my favorite things to collect, the Garbage Pail Kids, made this movie hit a lot harder for me.
Right.
I was just super into, the creation of John Pound. He was one of the creators of the Garbage Pail Kids, but just the grotesque nature of what they were increased my interest in this movie when I saw, trailers for this, that this was going to be a film. And it was very exciting because in my child mind, I just remember thinking oh man, this is like a Garbage Pail Kid, but way scarier and violent and just all the things that, I would kind of imagine some of the Garbage Pail Kids to be. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I definitely appreciated the way that they took Chucky from being a very, just a plastic mold doll to something that was very lifelike, and I think it holds up today. There were scenes where, the doll's on fire and he's flailing about, and I don't know that they could have got that much better by today's standards, to be honest. It was...
No.
They probably would have just used a bunch of CGI.
Right, and it was just very successful, even in its simplicity. I felt like it was scary at the time. I remember seeing it, and there are still, moments of it where you're just like, oh, damn,
Right.
they really knew what they were doing, and it was well crafted. And for as far as scary puppet movies go, this one's probably at the top of the list. It does, as the series of films progress, it gets way goofy.
Fucking weird.
Yeah, just real goofy.
Right.
And it does get more gory and more probably realistic in terms of, the special effects and things like that. Just whatever they have available, they're employing these new techniques. So things get better, and I'm at a point, I'm sure the animatronics just take over completely, but CGI takes over completely. But as far as a horror film of this era goes, I would say this is very successful and definitely a classic. Definitely, I don't know if I could say that it was one of my favorites, but I did own a Cabbage Patch Kid, I remember, when I was real little. And I kind of remember looking at that thing sideways, afterward. And anything else that... any other inanimate object in my home that I could perceive coming to life, and
Which
possibly...
is how you got to today, where if a friend tells you they were attacked by a doll, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Well, it's complex.
JD, a Funko
complicated.
Pop figurine bit me on the ass. Oh shit, let's get you checked out, man.
Yeah.
Right. At first, though, I would just assume that you tried to stuff a doll up your ass.
Right. Yeah, I need to stop being so ass focused, I think it muddies the water.
I think that might be...
Yeah, Joe, I went for the doll bit me on the arm, or cut me on the arm.
Right.
Right. But you've got Mountain Dew Code Red flying up your ass, and then you've got a Barbie doll flying up your ass, and just a lot of...
Yeah,
you know.
It seems like I'm just trying to put objects in my butt.
Yeah,
getting
so
caught
it's-
doing it and then blaming voodoo.
So maybe I would have listened to you, but just with knowing your track record,
Right.
I might have to trivialize what you were telling me.
Yeah, no, man, it came to life.
Talking
Yeah.
about side eye. Yeah.
A little side eye,
A little bit, yeah.
side glancing.
Well, suspicious.
Little suspicious. But yeah, so anyway, my impression of the film is concluded with that statement. Kane, how about your impression of Child's Play?
So I actually remember that I watched this movie in 1989.
Oh, wow.
I was 4 years old in 1989.
It came out on VHS then, and we had a sort of family, but not family member, that just had a video store in their basement, basically.
Nice.
So we got it home, and I remember it was colder outside, and we had, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Godfather's Pizza.
I don't think so.
Doesn't sound
But
familiar.
it was real good. It was some of the best pizza that I'd had at that very young age, and as I got older, I would judge other pizzas by it until I moved to Chicago, and then
Right.
that changes everything. But yeah, so I remember these are the vivid details, and I remember I was sitting in my dad's recliner, and he was actually not home. He was actually on a hunting trip, and so it was me, my mom, my sister, and my little brother, and we had convinced my mom to let us get this movie from our granny's house. And I was sitting in my dad's recliner, and by the end of the film, I was standing behind my dad's recliner and just peeking at the movie from over the back of it. And I
Right.
could like hide my eyes if I needed to, because there were scenes in this movie as a kid, you know, I was like 8 years old, that just scared the shit out of me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was like 7 or 8. Yeah. And they just scared me half to death. You know, I remember just being like terrified of it. And we had this pull string Pee Wee Herman doll that me and my younger brother had in our room. And I think that thing survived for about a month. And then we decided that it was definitely going to try to kill us. And that the only option that we had was to dismember it and throw it outside. Not throw it in the trash. We'd throw it in the trash. We didn't hide it, because we got into a ton of trouble when my father, money was always tight,
Right.
you know, with our family. But when my father found this dismembered toy that he and my mother had spent their hard-earned money on, we got into a lot of trouble. Even after explaining, hey, we thought it was alive and it was going to kill us, they didn't buy it. Yeah, they were like, no, that's not how you treat your things.
So you had a similar experience to the main character of this film, is what you're saying.
No, not even remotely. The doll wasn't alive, Joe.
But you believed that it was. And I think that's just as scary.
We did believe that it was. But yeah, so I've rewatched this movie multiple times in the past decades since watching it the first time. And it does hold up. I always enjoy it. I always, you know, I do joke about the silly things that happen, you know, throughout the film. You know, like there's just, or not silly things, but just improbable things.
Right.
You know, like the first death, you have Maggie falling out a window, and which detective shows up to take this case in a city of 3 million?
The same guy.
Oh, look, it happens to be Detective Mike Norris, who shot the real Charles Lee Ray. You know,
It's
like
possible Mike Norris was the only detective in the city of Chicago.
at this time in 1988, Detective Mike Norris was the only one.
Yeah.
Everybody else was not there yet.
Yeah, they just issued every large city one detective.
Yeah.
And
Just
they were, it's like the sheriff, essentially.
right.
I'm the detective of Chicago, you know?
Especially Chicago. Good luck.
Yeah, you know, and then there's, you know, the scene where all of the homeless people are looking at Karen Barclay like she's just a Thanksgiving ham, and they're all going to cut chunks off of her. Like that was
That
very
wasn't great.
silly.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that like I really think that the voodoo priest with just a voodoo doll that he just kept that people knew about seemed like just so silly. Like,
Right.
you know, even if there are beneficial uses for having your own voodoo doll,
Back rubs.
no one has ever seen that thing. No one knows that you have one.
Right.
You know, it's interesting in that in the incantation that Charles was reciting before entering the doll, and then again referenced a deity, almost like a voodoo god, if you will, named Damballa. And that's actually, it holds some fidelity to voodoo, because they're, you know, it's like this creator that often takes the form of like a white snake.
The band Whitesnake?
No, not the band White Snake, but a kind of
Damballa
like
is a white snake, Joe. God, keep up, man. Can you get drunk after we record instead of before and during?
I'll continue to get drunk after we record. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I thought it was kind of cool that my voice just cracked, and that
It happens.
Yeah, it does.
Zoinks!
Zoinks.
I don't know, Scoob.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking now.
Yeah. And then one last comment I want to make before we kind of transition out. The movie used the city of Chicago very well to, using like a very real looking city in the way that it did made the movie feel a little more realistic, I think.
Yeah, it did.
Too bad it just butchered our accents.
You're still hung up on that.
I really am, because they
Which
made us
I
sound like
understand.
we're all
I get
from
why
New
you
York.
would be.
They were like, yo, yeah, whatever.
Tony, yeah.
Yo.
I guess what we're saying is that horror creators, if you're going to feature a film in Chicago, don't use New York accents.
Right. And they filmed the movie in Chicago. They had to have been constantly talking to the people of that city on a daily
Some
basis.
Chicagoans, right.
So they would be hearing the way that they speak.
And I think today it's deceptive because there's so many transplants living here from other places that like you could miss like a true Chicago accent.
Right.
And especially not if they're actually spending as much time on the South Side, because that's where you're going to hear more of that, I feel.
All right. Anyway, my personal experience with the movie is that I love it, and I'll probably watch it again in a year or so. Like,
Sure.
I enjoy it enough that I'll come back to it. It holds up.
Yeah.
But if you watched Child's Play, and you probably should have before listening to this,
Well, I mean, you
Let us
almost
know.
it's such a popular horror movie. I feel like you almost certainly have seen it.
let us know what you think.
Yeah.
You can find us anywhere that podcasts live. You can also swing by. We give you brainworms.com to find our Patreon and our Discord server link, which is a funky, fresh Discord server.
It is funky and fresh, and we will talk to you about horror films there.
Also, do not forget to go to YouTube and click the subscribe button, because Joe really likes it when you click the subscribe button.
Yeah, like the video, leave a comment. One of us will probably chat you up about whatever you have to say. And give a little clicky click on that bell as well.
Oh, yeah. Click the bell. Click the bell.
Don't forget to tune in next week for Gremlins. Watch it because we are probably going to spoil it.
I almost forgot, Joe. I didn't almost forget. I did forget.
You did, yeah.
Just going to bypass this altogether. Anyway, we're getting out of here. All right, we're not going to take up any more of your time. JD, tell the good folks goodbye.
Au revoir.
All right, clicking the thing.
What about Doritos and Coke?